Jake Morrison slouched in the cracked leather chair of his grandmother's lawyer's office, surrounded by his successful cousins who wore designer suits and carried themselves with the confidence money brings. At 25, Jake felt like the family's perpetual disappointment, a college dropout bouncing between warehouse jobs, while everyone else collected degrees and promotions. The lawyer, Mr. Henderson, cleared his throat nervously. Before we proceed with Nia Morrison's will, I must inform you that ... Well, this is highly unusual. He pressed a small crystalline device she'd left with specific instructions. The air shimmered, and suddenly a 7-foot-tall figure materialized, clearly not human, with iridescent blue skin and 4 arms. Jake's cousin screamed and scrambled backward, but Jake stared in fascination. This looked exactly like the beings from Grandma Naya's crazy stories. "Greetings," the hologram spoke in perfect English. "I am Counselor Vextai of the Hegemony Legal Corps. I represent the estate of Nia del Var Kessin, formerly known to you as Nia Morrison." Jake's cousin Bradley, a corporate lawyer, found his voice first. "This is some kind of hoax. Holograms don't just—" "Your grandmother," Vextai continued, ignoring the interruption, "was exiled nobility who chose Earth as her sanctuary. Per hegemony law, her hereditary holdings passed to her designated heir." The alien's large eyes fixed on Jake. "Congratulations, Jake Morrison. You are now the legal owner of planet Kepler 442c. The room erupted in chaos. His cousin Sarah, a doctor, demanded medical evaluations. Bradley threatened lawsuits. Their parents frantically called this impossible. But Jake remembered his grandmother's whispered stories during childhood sleepovers, tales of desert worlds and sleeping cities, of responsibilities that spanned galaxies. Stories everyone dismissed as dementia, but which had always felt true to him. "What's the catch?" Jake asked quietly, silence in the room. Vextai's expression grew solemn. "The planet is officially classified as uninhabitable wasteland. No atmosphere, extreme temperatures, nothing but sand. Current market value, negative 400,000 galactic credits due to environmental cleanup costs." Jake's family's excitement died instantly. Bradley laughed bitterly. A worthless rock with massive debt attached. How perfectly fitting. But as the hologram dissolved and the family filed out muttering about "that crazy old woman," Jake noticed something they'd missed. Hidden in the inheritance documents was a small brass key and coordinates to a storage unit in downtown Chicago. 3 days later, standing before Unit 247B, Jake's hands trembled as he turned the key. Inside sat a sleek vehicle that definitely wasn't built on Earth, all flowing curves and crystalline, panels that hummed with barely contained energy. Attached to the pilot's seat was a handwritten note in his grandmother's familiar script. "The real inheritance isn't the destination, my dear boy. It's the journey to discover who you're meant to become." Jake ran his fingers over the ship's smooth surface, and it responded with a gentle pulse of warm light. For the first time in years, he smiled with genuine purpose. Asterisk the ship, which his grandmother's journal called Wanderer's Hope, piloted, itself with an intelligence that made Jake simultaneously grateful and nervous. During the 3-week journey through hyperspace, he studied every file Nia had left behind, learning about hegemony politics, desert survival, and most importantly, the true history of Kepler-442c. His first shock came when Dr. Elena Vasquez contacted him via subspace radio. The xenorchaeologist from the University of New Barcelona had been monitoring hegemony legal transmissions and was fascinated by his inheritance. "Mr. Morrison, I've studied the official surveys of your planet." Her accented voice crackled through the ship's speakers. "Something's wrong with the data. Satellites show nothing but sand, but the mineral scans don't match. There are geometric anomalies in the terrain that suggest artificial structures. Jake found himself trusting her immediately. Elena's passion reminded him of his grandmother's enthusiasm for ancient mysteries. When she offered to meet him at the planet with proper archaeological equipment, he agreed without hesitation. The second surprise was Marcus Chun, a gruff salvage operator who intercepted them at the edge of the Kepler system. His massive cargo ship, Lucky Strike, dwarfed Wanderer's Hope, and Marcus himself looked like he'd been wrestling asteroids for decades. "You're the kid who inherited the wasteland?" Marcus's weathered face appeared on the view screen, skeptical, but not unkind. "Listen, son, I've been working this sector for 20 years. That planet's not what the reports say. Ships that get too close sometimes. Well, let's just say their instruments go haywire." Marcus had brought supplies, atmospheric suits, deep core scanners, emergency shelters, accepting Jake's promise of payment if they found anything valuable. "Your grandmother contacted me 6 months ago," he admitted. "Said you'd need help when the time came. Strangest conversation I ever had, but she was convincing." As they approached Kepler 442c, Jake's breath caught. The planet hung before them like a giant amber marble, its surface an endless expanse of golden sand broken only by massive crater formations. But as Wanderer's Hope descended through the thin atmosphere, Jake noticed what the orbital surveys had missed. The craters weren't random. They formed patterned spirals and geometric shapes stretching for hundreds of miles. And in the largest crater, barely visible beneath centuries of accumulated sand, geometric shadows suggested something vast and deliberately constructed. "Those aren't natural formations," Elena whispered over the comb, her archaeological training evident. "Jake, this is the find of the century. Those patterns are consistent with the architectural styles of the ancients, the civilization that supposedly went extinct 50,000 years ago." Marcus guided them to a landing site near the largest structure. As they prepared to disembark, Jake's suit scanners detected something impossible: trace amounts of breathable atmosphere seeping up through microscopic vents in the sand. "The planet's alive," Jake murmured, remembering his grandmother's stories about worlds that chose to sleep rather than die. Elena checked her readings twice. "Jake, these atmospheric traces contain organic compounds that shouldn't exist here. It's as if something massive is breathing very, very slowly beneath our feet." As they set up base camp, the sun began to set over the endless dunes. And in the growing darkness, Jake could swear he heard whispers in the wind speaking, in a language he'd never learned, but somehow understood, telling him he was finally home. Asterisk, the first night on Kepler 442c changed everything. Jake awoke to who? Find the sand around their camp had shifted into intricate mandalous patterns that matched symbols from his grandmother's journals. Elena documented everything with scientific precision, but even she couldn't explain how geometric designs had appeared overnight without any seismic activity. "The sand moved deliberately," she told Jake over breakfast, showing him thermal imaging from her overnight sensors. Temperature variations suggest something was actively sculpting the surface, but there's no explanation for what or how. Marcus, practical as always, focused on exploration. His deep core scanners had detected massive, hollow spaces beneath the largest crater chambers that extended down nearly 2 miles. "Whatever's down there, it's big enough to house a city," he reported, checking his equipment for the 3rd time. "But the access points are all sealed." Jake's breakthrough came by accident. While examining one of the sand mandalas, he tripped and fell, his gloved hand landing squarely in the pattern center. The reaction was immediate. A section of hard-packed sand 20 feet away suddenly collapsed, revealing a staircase carved from black stone that seemed to absorb light. "That's not possible," Elena breathed, but her excitement overrode her scientific skepticism. "Jake, this planet is responding to you specifically. The genetic markers your grandmother mentioned, They're not just legal inheritance documents. They're biological keys. Dr. Sarah Kim arrived that afternoon with a corporate survey team from Titan Industries. Jake's heart sank when he recognized her, a former classmate who'd always looked at him with barely concealed pity. Now she wore an expensive environmental suit and carried scanning equipment worth more than Jake's lifetime earnings. Jake Morrison. Sarah's voice carried professional sympathy through the comm. I heard about your ... situation. Titan Industries specializes in extracting value from challenging environments. We could help you liquidate this asset, take care of the inheritance taxes, maybe even leave you with a small profit. Behind Sarah stood Commander Rex Torres, a military contractor whose scarred face and alert posture screamed Special Forces background. We're also here representing several governments concerned about unregistered alien technology, Torres added, his tone friendly, but carrying an unmistakable warning. The tension escalated when Alana's geological surveys revealed massive energy. Signatures beneath the planet's surface readings that suggested technology operating far beyond human capabilities. Sarah's corporate smile widened. These energy sources could power entire solar systems. You're sitting on the discovery of the millennium. But that night, as Jake descended the revealed staircase alone, despite everyone's protests, he finally understood his grandmother's true gift. The stairs led to a vast chamber filled with crystalline formations that pulsed with soft blue light. And standing among them, translucent and shimmering, was his grandmother. Hello, my dear boy, Naya's spirit smiled, appearing exactly as she had in her stories younger, wearing flowing robes that seemed to be cut from starlight itself. You've done well to come this far, Grandma, but you're gone from your world, yes. But this place remembers everyone who's ever been its guardian. The sleepers below are dreaming, Jake, and in their dreams, consciousness persists beyond physical death. She gestured to the vast space around them. This is just the antechamber. Below us lies an entire civilization in suspended animation millions, of beings who chose to hibernate rather than face extinction. Jake felt the weight of cosmic responsibility settling on his shoulders. Why me? I'm nobody special. Naya's expression grew serious. Because you're the only one in our family who still believes in wonder, who listens to whispers others dismiss as impossible. The sleepers need someone who won't exploit them, won't fear them, but will help them decide whether it's time to wake up. Above them, Jake could hear Elena calling his name, worry evident in her voice. Choose carefully, Naya whispered, as her image began to fade. Your friends above mean well, but there are others coming who don't. Jake emerged from the underground chamber to find their camp in chaos. 3 massive ships had landed during the night, corporate mining vessels, military transports, and something sleek and alien that Marcus didn't recognize. Elena grabbed his arm, relief and excitement warring in her expression. Jake, thank God you're safe. We've got company, and they're not here for archaeological tourism. Admiral Qin Ling of the Terran Defense Force had taken command of the situation with military efficiency. A composed woman in her 50s, she'd set up a perimeter around the crater and was scanning everything with sensors that made Alana's equipment look like children's toys. Mr. Morrison, Admiral Chun approached with professional courtesy. Preliminary scans indicate this planet contains technology that could destabilize the balance of power in 12-star systems. For the safety of human space, we need to understand what we're dealing with. The corporate representative was less diplomatic. Vincent Krauss from Galactic Resources Corporation wore a smile that never reached his eyes and spoke in boardroom, euphemisms that barely disguised threats. Jake, buddy, you're in over your head. Let us handle the complicated stuff mining rights, technology licensing, government relations. We'll give you a very comfortable retirement package. But the arrival that changed everything was Zerathil, a member of his grandmother's original species. The 7-foot-tall alien emerged from the sleek ship wearing robes that seemed to capture and reflect starlight, her 4 arms moving in graceful gestures as she spoke. Young Morrison, her voice, carried harmonics that resonated in Jake's bones. I am here to prevent a catastrophe that could consume this galaxy. The sleepers below must not be awakened. They chose hibernation for good reason. Elena's scientific curiosity overrode political tensions. What are you talking about? This is the archaeological discovery of the millennium and intact prehistoric civilization. Zarathal's eyes fixed on Jake with disturbing intensity. Your grandmother was supposed to ensure they remained sleeping forever. The ancients didn't hibernate to wait for a better time. They withdrew because their technology had become too dangerous for any conscious mind to control safely. The debate was interrupted when Marcus's scanners detected movement deep beneath the planet's surface. Something's stirring down there, he reported, voice tight with concern. Energy readings are spiking, and those crystalline formations are resonating at frequencies that shouldn't be possible. Jake realized the planet was responding to the surface activity. Too many people, too much technology, too much conflict directly above the sleepers. The whispers in the wind grew stronger, speaking in that strange language he understood without learning. They were asking him to choose. Admiral Chun deployed armed guards around the crater entrance. Kraus activated industrial mining drones. Zarathil began chanting in a language that made the very sand vibrate. And Elena looked at Jake with complete trust, waiting for him to decide their next move. The planet's testing us, Jake realized aloud. All of this, the corporate greed, the military paranoia, the warnings about ancient dangers, it's all part of the evaluation. The sleepers aren't just waiting to wake up. They're waiting to see what kind of galaxy they'd be waking up into. The crystalline formations throughout the crater began to pulse in unison, and Jake felt something vast and ancient turning its attention toward the surface. Below them, millions of dreaming minds prepared to render judgment on humanity itself. Marcus grabbed his equipment. Kid, whatever you're planning, decide fast. Those energy readings are off the charts. Jake looked at each of the people surrounding him, allies and threats, dreamers and exploiters, and realized his grandmother's true test had just begun. The moment of truth arrived at dawn. Jake stood at the entrance to the ancient chamber, surrounded by the accumulated forces of human ambition and alien wisdom. The crystalline formations beneath Kepler 442c pulsed with increasing intensity, and everyone present could feel the immense consciousness stirring in the depths. Admiral Chun had positioned her troops in defensive formations, their weapons trained. On the crater's edge, Mr. Morrison, whatever's down there is generating energy signatures that could power planet-killer weapons. We cannot allow unknown technology to fall into the wrong hands. Vincent Krauss activated his mining drones, their industrial sensors penetrating deep into the planet's crust. Jake, those energy readings represent trillions in potential revenue. Don't let fear of the unknown prevent humanity from claiming its rightful inheritance. But Zarathil stepped forward, her 4 arms weaving complex patterns in the air. You do not understand. The ancients mastered technologies that could reshape matter itself, manipulate time, transcend the barriers between dimensions. They chose to sleep because consciousness and such power cannot safely coexist. Elena moved to Jake's side, her scientific instruments recording everything. Whatever happens, this moment will redefine our understanding of life in the universe. Jake, the choice has to be yours. You're the only one the planet recognizes as legitimate heir. The whispers in the wind grew stronger, and suddenly Jake understood them completely. The sleepers weren't asking whether to wake up. They were asking whether humanity was ready to inherit their legacy of cosmic responsibility. Every person present represented a different aspect of human nature, and their presence was no coincidence. "You're all here because you needed to be," Jake said, his voice carrying new authority. Admiral Chun represents humanity's protective instincts, the need to defend what we love. Vincent embodies our drive to explore and expand, to push boundaries regardless of risk. Zarathel carries the wisdom of caution, understanding that some doors should remain closed. Elena represents our endless curiosity, our need to learn and grow. The planet itself began to respond. Sand swirled upward in spiraling columns, and the hidden city beneath their feet started to rise. But instead of ancient ruins, what emerged was something impossible: structures that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Technology that bent space and time like sculptor's clay. Marcus grabbed Jake's arm. "Kid, my scanners are going crazy. It's like reality itself is becoming unstable around here." The sleepers weren't waking up. They were manifesting their dreams into physical reality, testing whether the conscious minds above them could handle such power without destroying themselves. Jake felt the weight of his grandmother's true legacy settling around him like a mantle. This wasn't about inheriting a planet or ancient technology. It was about becoming the bridge between humanity's potential and its wisdom, between its ambition and its restraint. "I choose," Jake announced, and his words seemed to echo through dimensions, but not alone. He reached out to Elena, whose scientific mind could help humanity learn without being consumed by knowledge. To Admiral Chun, whose protective nature could guard against the misuse of power. Even to Vincent, whose drive for expansion could be channeled toward exploration rather than exploitation. And to Zarathel, whose ancient wisdom could guide them safely through cosmic responsibilities they weren't yet ready to handle alone. The sleepers don't need to wake up completely, Jake realized. They can dream alongside us, sharing their knowledge gradually as we prove ready for it. This planet becomes not a source of power to be mined, but a school where humanity learns to handle cosmic responsibility. The crystalline formations pulsed once more, and then settled into a gentle, steady rhythm like a vast heart beating, in harmony with the galaxy itself. The ancient city remained partially manifested, accessible but not overwhelming, waiting for humanity to grow into its inheritance.